stop. This man, huge group man, in there with us. Okay, right gang, let's have a bit of edges. Okay, folks, can we shift these? Say if you get down here. Just slide into me. Okay, big smiles. Pick of the budget. Alright. Switch on the flash. Okay, folks, this one now, big smiles. Don't go away, Annie. More big smiles. And again. Lovely. Just one more. Lovely. Back row up with your keep it closed.
When the meeting is over and I close it, then any final member wishes to say a few words to that. Understood? Perfect. Okay. I declare the meeting open now. Minutes of the monthly meeting of the 8th of April 2014. Ladies and gentlemen, it is a great honour for me to chair this final meeting of Gorey Town Council. This meeting is about remembering the past, but more importantly, it's about welcoming the future. Each of us had a different personal and professional journey here.
It was announced about a year before it happened, and when it did, as the monthly meetings came along, you could see the enthusiasm going out of the members, and particularly after Christmas, when they came back after Christmas. I think they realised, you know, we've only a few more months left. And on the night of the final meeting, now they had the second last meeting in the new council chamber, and then they came back here to the market house for the final meeting, and they had some projects as well for local people, so the place was absolutely packed, and it was a big town occasion. On that particular night, I think there was a fair bit of emotion there. I think there was people there who did demonstrate that they were really enjoying representing their town. There was something they were proud of, and I think it showed. Some of them were disappointed, but they realised they were on no hope. The government had made the decision, and that was it.
It's a sad night that we have come to the end of an era of Gorey Town Council, along with so many other urban councils and corporations in the whole country.
I'd also like to acknowledge the former members here, town commissioners, who before us done their best in their efforts to make Gorey a better place for everybody to live in.
And all these people around us served this town with great distinction and great honour, the same as yourself, Cahill, and all the rest of us that wore that precious chain. And they all wore it with the distinction, with great distinction, representing the people of this town.
I'm so proud walking down Fifth Avenue in New York with the chain of Gorey wearing it. They're all the good memories.
There were monthly meetings, yes, and they would debate whatever would be happening. A lot of it in terms of local government was potholes, although you don't have too many potholes in the town, but you can have bad streets breaking up, lighting, sanitation, that sort of thing was generally what the local councillors dealt with.
The county council had some powers and they had some money. The town council never had either power nor money.
The loss of the town council will be felt in the town, as much because while there were very little powers, it did act as a very effective voice and as an advocate for the town and of raising issues of concern. And the councillors in the town were very much in touch with the people in the town.
But I think they did get work done. I think they were a little bit unfairly treated, because in the end of their days, they had no budget, they had no control over budget. Things were being taken away from them. And on the one hand, people were expecting them to deliver. On the other hand, they didn't have the power to deliver. So before they were abolished, the government, with a stroke of a pen, bit by bit, took away their powers and left them rudderless.
because I believe they're badly needed. It's the only way that the ordinary town person will get an opportunity to voice their opinion to the local town councillor, who will then bring it on and get the work done that should be done.
And a lot of people interacted with their councillor, and the reason they did was they'd be walking up the road and they'd say, look Johnny, next time you're at the council meeting, the light hasn't worked down there for a fortnight. Would you tell the lads up in the council? And they would actually do it. Or they might make a phone call, or they might call into the council and get things done. And the light would be fixed the next day and there'd be no more about it. And there was little things like that. And the reason that the local person would consult the councillor was he met him every day on the street, coming or going to work or going about their business. So they're accessible.
And that's what politics is all about. Even though we come from different roads into it, we still will get to the final destination. And that's to give the people of this town and area the best representation that we can, you know, that's humanly possible to them. And I suppose that's what we try to do. You mightn't think that at times of it made, you know. And, you know, you can have a difference of opinion with people, but once you walk out that door, you leave your difference behind. You know what I mean? You can have the biggest argument in the world with not just one or several people, right? But at the end of the night, that's it. Democracy wins.
You see, that's where I had a big issue with. I would be friends with every councillor that was in it before I ever joined the council, regardless of their political status or whatever. So I couldn't understand what all the bickering would be about. You know, we're here for the good of the town. All of us were. So to me, that was out the window when I went in, as far as I was concerned. I sided with many of the other politicians' opposition on different issues, which I thought were important, or didn't go down too well, but anyway, it worked in the end.
In the final town council, there was two females. There was Angie Dooley, who had served as Cathaoirleach, and Trish Quinn. Before that, there was people like Kay O'Gorman, there was people like Deirdre Bulger, and they would have been chairpersons here as well. So women were represented. I think there were one of the few councils that had two female members at the very final meeting.
As I say, this evening one of the press photographers was getting us together for a press photograph, and he was getting on to me that one of my party colleagues would be touching me or feeling me, and I said, believe you me, after having spent 5 years on this town council, I'll be safe in a rugby scrum. Because when I came in here 5 years ago, the place was so full of testosterone. I was the only female sitting around this table. So I'm glad to say that we now have 3 more females. 2 council officials have just taken up the post, and Trish was co-opted about 2 years ago. So I suppose in stark contrast sometimes to what we heard and saw displayed around this table, I was always struck by the manner, the courteousness, and how the council officials conducted their business. In fact, you always had to almost strain to hear their nice, soft, gentle voices. Sometimes it made a difference to what might have been going on at the time.
There was many colourful nights indeed, because lads would spark off of each other, and there used to be a mixture of, I think, comedy and farce and something else thrown into it. But a lot of it was to get publicity, and a lot of it was to be quoted in the papers the following week. Many years ago, I suppose, back in the 1960s, 1970s, Frank Hall famously had Newsbeat, and then he had Hall's Pictorial Weekly. And Frank drew his material from the provincial newspapers, and a lot of what was in the provincial newspapers was reported from the councils, and colourful councillors would come out with very colourful phrases, and they would have maybe curious or peculiar ambitions for some project or other, and a lot of it gained a lot of attention.
When the outfall was being put into Gortown for sewerage beside the pier head, Robbie was one of the people who opposed it, if I do remember rightly. And that's why many years ago,
But I mean, back in those times, the lads in the pub would be discussing what happened up at the council meeting over a pint. And I presume then the councillor would be trying to impress them as well. Well, lads, I brought up your issue. We aired it. We'll go back again. We didn't get what we want yet, but we'll go back again.
The press and the photographers who cover these meetings in politics, without which the people of the town wouldn't know what's going on. Mind you, I think some of the time you need to be hit by a heifer in order to get your message of stuff and recognition.
The front pages were great fun. How close we were to the P45 on occasion. By not telling the full story.
Yeah.
But
there are things that might be said and might be reported and will get headlines, but at the end of the day, people know that the town commissioners have done good work for this town.
So you had a great collateral cross-party friendship, which was very, very important in politics, and then you had people naturally who wouldn't be popular even within their own party, and the same with Fine Gael had their people in Fine Gael who weren't popular within the party.
They weren't as political as the county councils. Now, the county councils was political because all the decisions made at governmental level were made through the county council, but the town council was there trying to work on behalf of the people of town. You'd have an odd little scramble, but that's normal in politics because there were three different parties. I wouldn't mind that at all. But by and large, and I said the same for the other towns, the people who walked in there, whether there were 9 or 12, they came there to do a night's work on behalf of the town they represent. And I think that is very, very important.
And of course, back in the early days, well, not that early, I suppose up to 20 years ago, they got no expenses at all. So for generations, they would have given their time for the good of the town. Some of them would have gone into politics, but they didn't do it for the money.
And I'm telling you now, I don't care who hears me saying it, it's not for the salary you get for doing it, because to be quite honest with you, financially I'm better off since I stopped. There's no doubt about it.
I think Gorey has been a very prosperous town. It's developed very well, and when you see it compared to other towns around, I think Gorey is streets ahead.
This is a vibrant town and is doing extremely well. You won't see many locked up premises in it, and if they're locked up, they'll be locked up for a very short period. This town is doing extremely well, and we want to make sure that it continues to do well, because the amount of employment here in this town is unbelievable. With the shops on the one hand, the hotels on the other, and the 5 major supermarkets. And the strange point about it, that the supermarkets, and we've 5 of them, the 5 main supermarkets are here. They're all doing well. And some of the supermarkets have up to 120 people working in them.
The biggest employer in Gorey now came to Gorey on a motorbike, and that was Sean Stafford of Stafford's Bakery, and he is now employing, and his son, who's taken over the business with him, are employing about 350 people. So they're the biggest employers in Gorey at this moment in time.
And also Gorey in the last few years, just before the town council went, in the same year actually, it was elevated to the 2nd highest town in the county. You know, whether you can accrue that to a strong council or not, I'm not sure. But certainly a lot of good decisions were made, and the bypass worked, the civic buildings worked, they got their traffic plan in order, and Gorey became a visitor-friendly town and a good town to do business. And I would have to say that the councillors would have to take some little bit of credit for it. They certainly didn't take their eye off the ball in times of need.
We built a ring road around the town, and we finished that ring road in 2002. Now, there was 3 of us involved in building that ring road. There was Larkin Allen, Deirdre Bulger and myself, who were representing the town at the time. And that's the ring road that has saved this town. And I can assure you it'll stand the test of time for the next 50 years.
Well, I think it's magical that this building was used for so long for local government and for the governing of the town of Gorey. And it's lovely to have, the old surroundings and all the rest of it. But I'm afraid we're getting scarce, those of us who believe that way. The modern way now is the new building and the technology and all of that sort of thing. So we're probably bound for the scrap heap ourselves. A lot of good decisions were taken here. I'm sure there was bad decisions taken here. I'm sure they had sad nights when they remembered colleagues that had moved on or something like that. But we all have to move on now. That's the modern day message, I think, for us all.
To finish, I want to pay tribute and acknowledge the great work that past and present members have done for Gorey Town. I believe that Gorey Town is the fine town that it is today due to the hard work and the endeavours of all of you people. Thank you.
It was a sad night. It was a sad night in one sense for everyone that was here, because we invited back all the old town councillors that had survived up to then, and they thoroughly enjoyed it, and we get them their say. Before it was disbanding, we asked them, to share their moments with us, and some of them were good characters and some were very sincere with what they were saying. And
But I miss the chats after the meetings or before the meetings or just in general, meeting someone for coffee or, outside of the meetings, the social aspect of it. Yeah, I miss all that, all right, and what's going on in their lives.
And I'll give you a soundbite on this one. I don't expect to see it, but I believe in 20 years' time, when the people see the damage they have done by not having a town council, the town councils will come back again. That's my belief. I've made that statement as the last meeting of our own council above, that in 20 years' time, the town council will be back. Come what may. I now declare the last item, as far as Gorey Town Council is concerned, to be over, and we abandon the council. Thank you.